So guys, if you didn't see the FNCS Invitational LAN event that just took place this weekend, the winners of that event were Cammy and SETTY from the EU region. Now these guys were absolutely insane. They won 4 out of the 12 games, having a 33% win rate, absolutely popped off in every aspect of the game, were the most consistent team, had a lot of elims, and I'm going to be going over in this video exactly what they did and some of the stuff in the way that they structured their game in order to play in this tournament and then actually end up winning it at the end. Now these guys are absolutely insane, and in my opinion, they're the best duo in the world. And they were number 2 on my predictions list if you guys did see that video. But yeah, be sure to use code SONATAYT in the Fortnite item shop if you guys do want to support me. Let's hop right into this video. So I want to start off by going over their drop spot. I think this was arguably their biggest benefit. Their drop spot was the Cammy split. Essentially what this is it's the gas station and it's the surrounding little areas that have a bunch of loot. The really good thing about this drop spot is that you have a lot of loot in the area, and you also have a large piece of map control. Now what map control is the amount of dominance you have over a certain area and all the POIs surrounding you. So for example, these guys are in between Tilted Towers, Coney Crossroads, Rocky Reels, and the Sanctuary. Because these guys are in between all of those POIs, they're able to control all of the enemy players around it because those players know that Cammy and SETTY are landing at the Cammy split and are going to try to either rotate around or quickly rotate when they're not looking. This means that they're less likely to get ambushed in third party by some random team, and they're also able to get surge on the teams that are trying to rotate around them. But even if they are low on surge, they can still stay back in their POI and then tag enemies that rotate into them. And this leads me into my next topic, which is going to be their surge strategies. Now their surge strategies were extremely smart. I've never seen somebody IGL this well. Now their first primary one is that they would stay in zone and actually try to get surge. And I'm going to be playing a little clip from the broadcast here explaining how they got surge effectively.
Have a look at how they're getting their surge off spawn. It was something I talked about on the desk. These guys had a little bit of a problem, right? They were having a few issues with their surge, going down in that first moving more often than not, and it was down to surge. But look at this. They have the balloons to give them that elevation in the center of the map, even staying back into the storm to take advantage of the fight that was going on. We saw Canada, Macwood, Basil, and Jace going head-to-head. And look at this. Cammy and SETTY just thought, you know what? That's free surge. We're going to take that for ourselves. And what's most beneficial about this position is, of course, you can wait late because you have the balloon to rotate.
What Cammy and SETTY would essentially do is they would let people fight around them and hold their position for as long as they need in order to get the amount of correct tags and the amount of eliminations onto the enemy players around them. What would happen is that the enemy players would try to rotate around the area. They would maybe fight near the Cammy split POI during the mid game, and they would stay in their tarp for as long as it takes and try to get tags onto those people. And the really good thing that I want to highlight here is that they're not afraid of the storm. Especially in these early game zones, the zone's not going to be ticking for that much. It's going to be ticking for 1 and 2 damage at the max. I think what's really good about Cammy and SETTY is that they were able to loot their POI very quickly, get all of the amount of fish that they need, which is a really good utensil, have a good amount of medkits, chug splashes, as many white heals as they can have. They kept them in a box and they were able to successfully survive throughout zone for a while with little to no repercussions. Now, this points out 2 primary things that they do really well, which is looting their POI and actually abusing all of the different white health that you can get, and then rationing it correctly throughout the rest of the game. This caused them to get an elimination and then get fully set up for their Storm Surge later in the game. Now after they got done with that little display, they actually ended up rotating out of zone using the really good mobility from, once again, their drop spot. They were going to be using the balloon, in which they were able to rotate all the way to zone and then get positioned in a really good spot in Tilted Towers. What they would do after staying in zone is that they would land at a major location, somewhere that's in the circle obviously, and then they would try to farm an area while replacing a building, maybe trying to box up on a rock, do something in order to get a good amount of positional advantage. Now obviously not every zone pulled their way, but for the zones that did, they were really good in a set spot. However, if the zone didn't pull their way, the thing that they did really well is rotate early if they needed to, but if they did get held back for surge, they would 100% try to box up on somewhere they can refresh their materials. Whether this means getting an elimination, farming some natural cover in the area, for example, a brick or a tree, they would always have a place where they could replenish their materials and try to get eliminations in order to refresh their utensils. Now, the early rotation in the late mid-game zones, so what I mean by this is zones around 4 and 5, what they would do is they would have really smart decision-making based on the zone or RNG predictions. So for example, in zones 4, they would try to always rotate in position on this edge of zone, just taking the gamble that they're going to get half and half, which is something that all pro players should do. They would position there and then try to pull half-half, and a lot of times in this tournament, they actually ended up getting half-half because of their smart positioning. I think also another reason that they kept getting all these zones is because Cammy's very much been studying zone theory. Now, zone theory is something that I've been over in a couple of past videos. It's essentially the method that people use to predict zones. Now, this is oftentimes based upon VOD reviewing, seeing the way that the zones pull based upon the map, the circle, remembering various different zones from previous scrim days or practice sessions in which the zone pulled a certain way. Essentially, it's just how much you've played the game and how much experience you have to predict where the zone's gonna pull. And then once they finally got the half-half zone, they were into their endgame. Now, they were constantly saying on the middle layers. However, almost all of their wins came from taking the high ground. Now, this might be kind of surprising because you guys obviously know that Queasy and Vino were the kings of high ground throughout this tournament. I think they had high ground almost every single game that they were in endgame. However, Cammy and SETTY were really good at taking high ground away from them and claiming it for themselves. What they would do is they would try to survive through the first and second moving zones by staying on the middle layers. SETTY was tarping really well and using their launch pads and various different resources in order to rotate. Then, when the time was right, they would identify that high ground was weak by scouting through various different cones in different areas, and then they would try to take the high ground off of whoever had it. And the really good thing is that they're able to win those fights. They're very good fighters as well, which is another really good thing about the way that they play. The really good thing is that they were scouting constantly and had incredible tarp awareness, which this essentially means that they were able to know exactly where all the enemy players trying to get into their tarps were. Now, obviously, I just made a video on tarping if you guys want to check that out. You really need to consider exactly how Cammy and SETTY tarp because it's extremely intelligent. And that's actually the next topic, which is going to be SETTY being one of the best tarpers in the world. He's able to get around opponents very efficiently, and his pathing is unmatched. Now, what I mean by pathing, if you guys don't remember, is the route that you actually take through zone in order to get to your circle. SETTY is able to identify layer changes and pathing very well. He's able to get around people, able to determine when the best time to take height is, and just overall have a very smart idea of what to do in the endgame. They would always stay tightly packed together. They would never really be too spread out because in these high-level pro lobbies, if you're spread out, your teammate can get eliminated in an instant because all of these pro players are the best of the best and they can kill you almost immediately. But I think something that's really good about them is that once they were on high ground, they started doing this sort of split tarping. What they would do is either they would go in different directions of the zone or they would play on different layers and one of the teammates would be more aggressive while the other one stayed up. It's a really smart tactic that Cammy and SETTY use. And then they would pretty much do that throughout the entire rest of the game and then get into the idea of finishing the game. Now, in these pro level lobbies, final fights are very hard, much harder than the normal level lobby competitively. All these pro players are good at fighting, have top tier mechanics, and have incredible aim. The thing that Cammy and SETTY do that sets them apart is that they are very good at target prioritization and staying on the height in order to win. This is the reason that they got 4 wins, which once again is a 33% win rate for the entire tournament. That means that they won 1 out of every 3 games. That is absolutely crazy. This team is absolutely unmatched when it comes to Fortnite competitive skill. And then once they were able to properly have a correct layer, which was 90% of the time height, they would almost always win their high ground fights because they were able to really prioritize exactly who to shoot. I think that's a really good thing for this team. I think they were able to really succeed. And I think that you guys should definitely watch this tournament if you didn't watch it live. Really understand how Cammy and SETTY work. Understand why they do what they do. Because they are some of the best players in the world and they are currently the best duo and I'd consider some of the best Fortnite players in the world. But yeah guys, that is the video on exactly how Cammy and SETTY won this FNCS Invitational. If you guys did enjoy, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel down below. I really enjoyed making this video because I literally just finished watching the tournament and it's still really fresh in my mind. I understand exactly what they did. I really like the way they play. But yeah guys, that's about it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys.